Joe Sestak is a Democratic congressman from Pennsylvania, and he's challenging Democratic Senator Arlen Specter for his seat in the upcoming 2010 election. Thanks for being here, Congressman.
Dave, it's great to be with you. Thank you.
What makes you want to go from one house of Congress to the other?
Well, when I looked at Senator Arlen Specter, and I do respect his 30 years as a Republican senator in Washington, D.C., but I believe he represents everything that's wrong with Washington. And
like what?
And that has harmed Pennsylvania. You know, after 30 years in the office, he was more worried about his own job than he was, David, about yours. He switched to save his job, switched the party, running from Pat Toomey because he couldn't win a poll. He felt he was entitled to his seat. But like also too many in Washington, he talks about helping the working families. But in fact, he voted for every failed economic policy of George W. Bush, where the tax cuts, 53% of them went to the top 1% of the wage earners, that is, the millionaires. And he voted to actually throw out pay-as-you-go government, where we would have had to balance our budget.
Well,
so
both
can't
of
count
those,
on Arlen Specter.
Both of those things we can attribute to a number of members of both houses of Congress, but specifically...
True, but I'm running against a United States senator from Pennsylvania who was very senior as a Republican.
Specifically when it comes to Arlen Specter, if you had to say the number one thing he's done that has harmed residents of your state of Pennsylvania, what would you say that is?
I would say it's where he voted 2,000 times with George Bush on key votes, where he actually voted for corporate tax loopholes, for example, to ship jobs overseas. And even earlier, he voted to allow Wall Street to gamble away with our pensions and our retirement. But look, my point is he's now become a Democrat. We should welcome him in. But I believe that as he's flip-flopped on issues like Employer Free Choice Act or gay rights or the health care public option, he's a flight risk because you don't know where he stands. And that's all right, but that's Washington, how they've done it. And then you saw Ben Nelson making another deal, and we Pennsylvanians, I think, believe that we want to change not just in policy but politics. Look, I spent my life in the service to our nation, rising up to be an admiral, and then my daughter had a brain tumor. So I needed to get out there and take care of that problem with her. But this was payback to run for Congress at everyone, and I fought hard from the first day that everyone should have the health care at an affordable rate that I did in the military. So I work hard believing that jobs, that's why I went to Small Business Committee, education, that's why I went to the Education Committee, and health care is what really makes America strong. I learned that militaries make us safe, but the investment in health, economic, and education security make us strong, and I'm basically saying enough's enough. Even if the Democratic establishment thinks it's okay to forgive Arlen Specter, I believe we just need a new type of energy, new type of generational leadership where I believe principle matters over politics.
I would like for you to assign, if you'd be willing, a number between 0 and 100%. What percentage of Arlen Specter's switching parties was motivated by the fact that he was going to lose the Republican primary? 0 to 100. Where
100, because he said so. He literally went on Meet the Press and said he had taken a poll on a Friday and found out he could not beat Pat Toomey. And he said, therefore, he did not want his legacy judged by the Republican Party and switched. It was 100%. I mean, that's what he said. Now, since then, he said his heart's always been as a Democrat. Wait a moment. He switched from he actually has switched parties twice. As you know, he did it in Philadelphia. So I take him at his word on that. He did switch because he couldn't, and he ran away from his Pat Toomey.
What's your reaction to the SEIU's endorsement of your opponent?
Look, I respect labor. But when I went to see John Sweeney, head of AFL-CIO, the president, a year ago, he said, Joe, always remember it's not about labor. It's about the working family. So today, as you saw in the announcement, the machinist union endorsed me. UFCW's endorsed me. I've had the bricklayers endorse me. But I keep telling them, yes, I'm proud to have their endorsement. But at the end of the day, it's about working families because, you know, what happened, unfortunately, is that Arlen Specter voted for the largest education cut in the history of the nation. 1/3 of a cut over 7 years in education budget, and that's harmed working families. He voted against S-CHIP to cover lower-income children 3 times, including lower-income women who were pregnant. He voted against it 3 times. In short, he voted against working families, and Pennsylvania's had one half of the job increase in the 30 years he's been in Washington as the national average. It's why we're the second oldest nation. The youth haven't stayed. So I believe it is about the working families. Do I appreciate labor? Yes. And they stand up and they fight hard for the rights of the working families.
Yeah.
But it's their vote, the working families, that I most want, their endorsement.
The controversy over the White House offering you a job to get you out of the race. This started, at least it was on my radar to begin with, when you were asked on Philadelphia TV if you'd been offered a high-ranking job by the Obama administration.
Larry Kane asked me that question. The first one in 7 years who ever asked me it. I tried never to put it out there, of course, and then he asked me. You saw the interview then.
You said yes, and can you now tell us if that position was Navy Secretary?
No, what I can tell you is that I was asked a question, and heaven forbid that a public servant, unfortunately they're politicians usually, would answer a question honestly. But it serves no other purpose to go into it any further, I said, in that interview. Why? Because that's politics. I want to talk about the policies that Arlen Specter literally opposed, that I am for, because he gave his vote to George Bush. So let's talk about the health care, the education, because outside your radio station, nobody cares. They care about this economy. How do we create jobs?
Well, you don't know our audience. They care about inside baseball. Trust me. I have a good pulse of our audience. But
the working family cares about whether they're going to have a senator who's fighting for them.
Let me give you just one follow-up here. Was this a back-and-forth discussion, or was it simply something that was delivered to you and you did not consider, I assume, since you didn't take the position?
I was asked a direct question during that interview about a job. Something happened last July. I answered it honestly, and I said no more, because I want to focus purely on what's going to help working families, and that's changing this senator of the Pennsylvania, because I respect him.
All right, I know enough.
A generational change.
I know enough to realize I'm not going to get any more out of you, so I'll move on. Midweek Politics is brought to you in part by Jackson & Connor, classically modern men's apparel in Northampton, Massachusetts on the second floor of Thorne's Marketplace, and by DIF Design, specializing in custom business websites at difdesign.com. To find out more about underwriting Midweek Politics, visit midweekpolitics.com.